You spend years, sometimes an entire decade, scratching and clawing to build the perfect roster. You establish a ruthless winning culture, you fight your way to the absolute summit of the NFL, and you finally plant your flag. But the moment you do, the universe seemingly conspires to tear it all right back down. Today, on this explainer, we are diving deep into the fascinating, incredibly high-stakes calculus of NFL roster building. We're looking closely at the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Right now, this front office finds itself standing at a massive, highly controversial crossroads. They are holding emergency workouts and kicking the tires on a free agent situation that has the entire league watching. And they're watching not just because of the immense, undeniable physical talent involved, but because of an absolutely unprecedented level of off-field risk.
So, we have to ask this crucial question. How much risk is pure game-changing talent actually worth to a franchise? It's literally the ultimate dilemma for any general manager. The brutal reality of the NFL is that defending a title is exponentially harder than winning that first one. When you're sitting at the top, every single opponent circles your matchup on their calendar. You get their absolute best, most violent effort every given Sunday. In that kind of environment, a sudden, urgent hole on your roster can completely derail a dynasty before it even takes off. Seattle is navigating exactly that kind of desperate need in their secondary right now, and they're doing it while living in the massive, suffocating shadow of their own legendary defensive past. They're looking for reinforcements in the most dangerous of places. If you really want to understand the intricate, sometimes downright ruthless realities of how championship teams are sustained, well, you're in the right place. And if you're passionate about the strategy, the history, and the future of this league, make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus, hit that like button, comment your opinion down below, and support the channel by becoming a member. We're breaking down the biggest moves and the heaviest consequences every single week.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, Seattle's search for depth. Second, Arnold's serious legal troubles. Third, the PR and roster risks. And fourth, Sherman's Hall of Fame case.
Section 1. Seattle's search for depth. Defending champions seek secondary help.
Let's start with the current state of the Seahawks secondary. Why exactly is a defending Super Bowl champion actively holding emergency workouts in the dead of summer? Well, on paper, the foundation is undeniably solid. Seattle boasts a remarkably strong starting duo in Devin Witherspoon and Josh Jobe. These two guys are the anchors. But here's the thing about the modern pass-heavy NFL. A defense is truly only as strong as its absolute weakest link in coverage. Offensive coordinators in this league are brilliant, right? They will motion receivers, they will force mismatches, and they will ruthlessly hunt your third or fourth cornerback on every single critical third down. An injury to a key rotational piece means your entire season suddenly rests on the shoulders of the next man up. Seattle had incredibly high hopes for their promising third-round pick, Julian Neal, to be that crucial safety net. They drafted him specifically to play in their aggressive man-heavy scheme. But the harsh, unforgiving reality of football has set in. Julian Neal is currently sidelined indefinitely with an injury, and there is absolutely no official timetable for his return. That single injury completely changes the math for this defensive coordinator. Without a reliable third option, the entire coverage shell becomes vulnerable. The void left by Neal is the driving force behind an immediate, frankly desperate need for depth. The Seahawks know they cannot march into a title defense without a fully loaded secondary. And that desperation, that is exactly what leads a front office to explore options they might otherwise ignore entirely.
Section 2. Arnold's serious legal troubles. The fall of a first-round pick.
That pressing need brings us to the sudden availability of a player with immense potential, but incredibly dark clouds surrounding him. The void in the depth chart led Seattle, along with the Houston Texans, who are also hunting for a competitive edge, to bring in former Detroit Lions cornerback Terrion Arnold for a workout. And guys, this is where the story shifts from a simple roster move to a highly complex, almost cinematic fall from grace. Arnold's trajectory in the NFL has been nothing short of turbulent. Back in 2024, he was drafted in the first round by Detroit. A first-round pedigree means a franchise genuinely believed you possessed game-altering talent. But the pressure that comes with that draft capital, especially in a city like Detroit, is monumental. You're expected to be an immediate savior. His time there, however, produced very mixed on-field results over his first 2 seasons. The immense expectations quickly began clashing with the reality of his play. Then, adversity hit hard in 2025 when he missed the entire second half of the season due to injury. But the true collapse, the moment everything completely unraveled, happened just weeks ago in July 2026. Right before the dawn of a new training camp, Arnold was arrested and the Lions instantly released him. It sent an absolute shockwave through the league. Now he's scheduled for an arraignment hearing in Tampa on August 13th. We are looking at a devastating plunge from a highly coveted first-round pick to a free agent fighting for his career and, quite frankly, his freedom in the blink of an eye. The sheer gravity of this situation cannot be overstated. We are not talking about a minor off-season distraction or a simple misunderstanding here. These charges are staggering. Terrion Arnold currently faces 8 felony counts. Let that sink in for a second. 8. And these accusations range from kidnapping all the way to armed robbery. Now, because he has posted bond, he is technically and legally eligible to sign with any NFL team right this very minute. He is physically free to run a 40-yard dash, backpedal in a workout, and put pen to paper on a contract. But there is a massive canyon-sized difference between being legally out on bail and being clear of the National Football League's disciplinary hammer. The weight of 8 active felony charges is a dark cloud that inevitably brings the commissioner's exempt list right into the conversation. A team could sign him today, but the league could instantly place him on paid leave, entirely removing him from the active roster until the legal process formally concludes. As impartial observers, we just have to look at the undeniable facts. The legal process in Tampa will play out in a courtroom, as it should. But right now, this towering legal mountain is standing directly between Terrion Arnold and a return to an NFL field.
Section 3. The PR and roster risks. Weighing the free agent gamble.
With those heavy, undeniable legal facts sitting squarely on the table, we enter the war room. This is where we examine the immense dilemma that NFL front offices face when considering a player with this highly volatile profile. This is the ultimate test of organizational philosophy for the Seahawks. Teams are literally forced to put a terrifying scale on the table. On one side, you have the roster upside, filling the critical depth void left by Julian Neal with a player possessing first-round, elite-level physical talent. History shows us time and time again that NFL teams have a strong tendency to overlook severe issues for the sheer potential of landing a game-changing impact player. The very fact that the Seahawks and Texans are even hosting him for workouts proves that a market always exists for raw talent. But look at the crushing weight on the other side of that scale, the potential liabilities. First, there is the massive public relations backlash. Bringing a player facing 8 felony counts into a defending champion's facility right before the season kicks off, that invites an absolute firestorm of media scrutiny. What does that do to the locker room culture? How do veteran leaders, the guys who bled to build this championship foundation, react to a player bringing a daily media circus right to their doorstep? It drains energy, it drains focus, and it steals time from a team that needs to be solely fixated on winning football games. Second, and perhaps more importantly from a pure football operations standpoint, there is absolutely zero guarantee of his availability. With that August 13th arraignment looming, a team could sign him, absorb all of that toxic PR damage, fracture their locker room, and then lose him to the legal system or the commissioner's exempt list before Week 1 even begins. So, as a GM, do you risk the sacred culture of a defending champion for a desperate chance at a shutdown corner?
Section 4. Sherman's Hall of Fame case, the standard of excellence.
To truly understand what is at stake for Seattle's reputation here, we have to look back at the foundation of their defensive identity. Seattle's willingness to even consider such a controversial high-risk gamble today exists in stark contrast to the standard of excellence cemented by their greatest historical cornerback. Former teammate Tyler Lockett recently advocated for Richard Sherman's Hall of Fame induction, and he said it perfectly. You can't tell the story of the NFL without the Legion of Boom. Lockett is reminding everyone that Sherman wasn't just a great player. He was the absolute, undeniable heartbeat of the most feared secondary of the modern era. When you are the Seattle Seahawks, you aren't just trying to build a good defense. You are constantly, unfairly perhaps, being compared to the ghosts of the Legion of Boom. Every single cornerback who puts on that uniform is measured against that suffocating greatness. That is the standard. And that is exactly the culture you are trying to protect when bringing in new guys.
And the numbers? They back up that legacy in breathtaking fashion. Think back to 2013. Richard Sherman led the entire National Football League in interceptions that year. But honestly, the statistics don't even begin to tell the full story. His dominance wasn't quiet. It was loud, it was aggressive, and it was highly intellectual. He brought a swagger to the field that completely altered the DNA of the franchise. He literally struck fear into opposing wide receivers before the ball was even snapped. Hall of Fame quarterbacks flat out refused to throw to his side of the field. That 2013 performance directly fueled Seattle's Super Bowl victory that season. He was the tip of the spear for a defense that choked the life out of the greatest offenses of that generation. He created an identity built on pure accountability, ferocious preparation, and undeniable execution on Sundays.
But it's crucial to remember, this wasn't just a one-year wonder. Sherman built a bulletproof, data-driven Hall of Fame resume over a sustained period of excellence. He was named a Pro Bowler 5 times in his career. The National Football League season is a brutal, unforgiving war of attrition. It breaks bodies and it shatters minds. To be recognized by your peers, by the coaches, and by the fans as one of the absolute best in the game 5 separate times, that requires a level of physical endurance, mental toughness, and absolute focus that is incredibly rare in professional sports. He was available, he was elite, and he was the undisputed engine of that defense year after year.
And if 5 Pro Bowls weren't enough, he also achieved the incredible feat of being named a first-team All-Pro 5 times during his career. There's a massive distinction here that casual fans sometimes miss. A Pro Bowl can sometimes be a bit of a popularity contest, but being an All-Pro, that means the hardest, most cynical critics in the sport, the sports writers and analysts, looked at every single player at your position across the entire league and decided you were the undisputed best. 5 times. That is the purest definition of a Hall of Fame trajectory. It's a legendary status achieved through a standard of pure, focused on-field dominance, entirely without the catastrophic off-field distractions.
The impact of that group went far beyond individual awards. The Legion of Boom dominated the league for years. They won the Super Bowl following that historic 2013 season, and they were a single, fateful play call away from securing a second consecutive championship the very next year. Fans will never, ever forget the absolute heartbreak at the 1-yard line in Super Bowl XLI against the Patriots. It remains one of the most emotional, deeply ingrained memories in NFL history. But even in that agonizing defeat, the standard of excellence was undeniable. They were playing on the biggest stage, under the brightest lights, unified as a total brotherhood. Sherman's vocal leadership, his brilliant football mind, and his untarnished on-field dominance created a standard for this franchise that casts a massive shadow. It is a standard that modern front offices in Seattle are still desperately trying to replicate today. So when you look at the disciplined, legendary locker room culture Sherman helped build, and you contrast it with the chaotic, highly toxic reality of a player facing 8 felony counts like Torian Arnold, you really start to see the massive crossroads the Seahawks are standing at right now.
So, the crucial point we are left with is this final question. As that August 13th arraignment rapidly approaches in Tampa, the clock is deafening. Will the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks risk their carefully curated reputation and potentially the stability of their entire championship locker room on the raw, unpredictable talent of Torian Arnold? Or will they decide the gamble is simply too toxic and search elsewhere to maintain the proud, historic legacy of their secondary? The NFL waits for no one, and a franchise-altering decision is coming. I want to know what you guys think. What should the Seahawks do? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, for the most in-depth cinematic analysis of every major move in the league, make sure you are subscribed to NFL Nexus, hit that like button, and consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. We'll be tracking this story and everything else around the league, right here. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.